Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, we'll be going through the trade targets for round 8. As I said in the last video, there wasn't really many cash cows at this point in the season, and you kind of get to that point, I guess, in a way. Just looking at this, there's no one actually with a break even of below 10, and basically there's no one that's projected to make more than about 65k or so if you go by their averages. And there's no one in that sort of 380k range that we see that I think actually played last week. A lot of these girls that are sitting here now are girls that haven't really played in the last little bit, or are sort of 300k girls that are making up after a dead game, etc., and are still pretty low average wise. Like, a lot of them are only plus 10 or 15 on their the difference between their average and break even, basically. So there's no cash cows really for this week, and I don't think there will be for the rest of this week. And if we really wanted to bring them up, then I think it will be then it can occur now in the trade targets video anyway. But let's just jump into the trade targets now. Outside of the double, we can again go back to the structure that we sort of used for the men as well, to a certain degree, or we used for the women's last year. I know the men's, it's easier because you can just go, oh yeah, you need the you just go by the most traded in, most traded out. Obviously, we don't have that function with the women's, but we can obviously go to we can use a sort of a similar, or I guess a statistic that sort of leads to the most trade in and trade out sort of thing. I guess in the team selected by percentage, it gives a rough idea of that, I should say. So anyway, we'll be using that alongside the sort of averages to sort of indicate who I think is the best options per se for the rest of the year, given roles, etc. So I think, as I've been saying all year for the defender line, well, at least for the last 2 or 3 weeks specifically, a defender line having 4 of Maddie Newman, Webster, Sheeran, Daisy Darcy, the top 5 are, in my opinion, Sheeran, Webster, Newman, and Newton. I think those are the top 5 girls that have pretty much the best role. We saw, if you were to go to L3, Newton 76, Daisy Darcy 79, Sheeran 81, Webster 80, Newman 85. They're all up there. Gaze at 77, which is close behind Newton. Just ahead of Newton. But yeah, you can sort of see what I'm going by in that. And if you take out, I think, does Gay have like 100 in here? Or nope, no 100 in there. Okay. But she did play the Dogs game, which was very much just a kick mark game. So I guess she profited a little bit off that. But anyway, I think that those, obviously the top 6 here are probably the top 6. I would say Gay's probably just behind Newton, I would say personally. But yeah, given roles, I think that those are the top 6. I think I'd have Newton 5, as I said. And so I'd be grabbing up Newman, Webster, Sheeran, and Newton and Daisy Darcy if you don't have them. Obviously, looking at now at the percentages selected, I think a lot of people have Newman, Webster, and Sheeran because they're in the teens, whereas Newton is probably a little bit behind others. And I didn't even have to look at the last 3 here. You can sort of see it as well. And then you can see Thomas is 77 in the last 3, Goldrick 67. You can sort of see that drop off a little bit. So I think that Goldrick, Thomas, and Watson are the next 3 defenders. If we were to go by L3, you kind of see this start to play out. You sort of have this top line here. Georgia Clark, I think, just went off in 1 game, and that's why she's up so high. Yeah, she had a game against Western Bulldogs, so I don't think she'll be there. Then you sort of have Heads, Goldrick, and Watson, as I said. And you sort of see this these brackets start to emerge. I would say Schleicher is in and around that bracket as well, just because of the chaos with Collingwood. She's getting more opportunity, but I don't think she's near enough the top end per se. Gabby Pound as well. So yeah, I think that you really want to be targeting pretty much, I would say, anyone. I would say you just want to be targeting the top 5 here. The top 5 or top 6 defenders, that's it. You don't want to be targeting to be grabbing up a Heads or Watson at this point in the season, because that's probably the one that you're upgrading from that top 5 to that top 5, from that sort of D5 slot up to say a D5 of Ella Heads that I have currently, maybe up to a Webster or something like that, for instance. Moving on to the midfielders. And if you don't have Marinoff, I don't know what you're doing, simply put. She's probably unattainable. I just want to look at the stats by Jaden just to see what is her break even. It's 134. So if he was to go 152, then she'd be priced at 2 mil on the dot. A 152 or a 153 is 2 mil on the dot. For her being priced originally at, what's it now? 1.6, what's that? 1.66 or something mil. For her to get up to 2 million would be kind of crazy. But anyway, yeah, she's just, if you don't have her, she's kind of unattainable. It is what it is with that. Then we've been saying, or well, at least for the last 3 or 4 weeks as well now, here on this channel, that basically the midfield that you dream to have is probably Marinoff, Garner, and then you scroll down here a little bit. Last 3 is probably a little bit messy, a little bit. You go Marinoff, Riddell, Garner. Rowbottom's starting to slip as well, but you'd still probably go Rowbottom. And then you'd be a choice out of, I would say, Ali Anderson or Mon Conti, to be honest with you. Those would be the couple that I'd be sort of going and debating over in the last, for the last 3 rounds. So most people have at least got 3 out of the 5 that I just discussed there. If you have better injury luck, you probably have 4 or maybe even 5 out of the 5 that I discussed, or the main 4, which is the top 4 here, in my opinion. Charlie Rowbottom is that clear 4th, I would say now, given the consistency of Riddell and Garner. So yeah, you want those. At least this top 3 is a definite, which I've only got 1, which is kind of indicative of how my season has gone. And then you just want to be able to try and get at least, if you have Rowbottom, hold her, and then one of Anderson, Conti. Ash McCarthy is close, but I would say that is sort of waning after her round 1 epic. Hashard is kind of in that ballpark, but I would say probably no. And then you start to go down here and you start to go, I don't think there's anyone in here. Maybe you could say on a hunch, Sophia Hurley for the last couple of weeks, just because that midfield is clearing out for the Swans. Maybe that's the pod option that you go for. But that would be extremely risky because, yeah, she's going 100, 101, 118. She hasn't really shown that she can go extreme heights, I would say. But she's also shown with the complete on-ball time that she should be getting 90-plus scores. So, if this is probably the pod option I would suggest out of all, because you're going to get people that go Anderson, Conti, etc., as that M5 slot for the teams really competing. You could also potentially go Ella Roberts, but I think she does struggle with the tag more than the likes of a Sophia Hurley does. Probably that's just because her tackling isn't to the level of Sophia Hurley as much, I would say. But she does probably find the ball a little bit better and has much better marking prospects than Sophia Hurley. I think Tiana Smith just doesn't get the ball enough. McCarthy, I think, just struggles to... she's putting up decent scores, but then, again, outside of this top line, 139, doesn't really have a score outside of that and has the ability to drop 70s and 80s before. Blackburn's out for the year. So that's pretty much what I would say in the midfield line. Then we go to the ruck line, and this one's pretty simple. Strom or nothing, basically as simple as that. If you want to get Lucy Wales just to sort of shore up the ship, I'd maybe suggest that. Maybe you could go a little bit early on. Early on Schultz, I guess, who's playing solo ruck, and she's doing pretty well. She's averaging, I would say, as a solo ruck, 100 plus 77 plus, so 100 plus 90, 190 plus 147 is 190, 337 divided by 337 divided by 4, I think it is, 336 divided by 4, I think it is, 84 as a solo. So 84 as a solo isn't the worst, probably not the best, but yeah, definitely not the worst. Let me just double check that. 79 plus 79 plus 89 is 346, divided by 4 is 86.5 actually, so it's 10 off. 86.5 actually is pretty good and probably lands her in that second slot. So yeah, if you're upgrading a ruckman, I'd probably go to Schultz or go to Strom, but if you can't get to Strom, go to Schultz. Schultz is probably how I'm going to upgrade O'Dowd next week if I can grab her, just because she's probably going to do a lot better than O'Dowd in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, what's her, let's go to ruck. How's Schultz doing? What's she She's got a break even of, here it is, 68, so she's probably going to go up. They would suspect maybe somewhere around that 1 point. Yeah, so she's going to get probably, you can see O'Dowd and her pretty much about the same for break evens, etc. So hopefully O'Dowd can put up a good number, and then I can just sort of upgrade her to Schultz next week, and that'll be sort of the upgrade for next week. But yeah, that's sort of my thinking around that, as I won't be able to capture Strom, I don't think, this year, unless some miracle happens with my cash generation in the last couple of weeks. Forward line, it is basically lock-in Hall, lock-in Randall. Gould somehow got, that's the last 3 weeks. O'Loughlin is somehow the third best forward. Tripodi sort of there or thereabouts. If you get a wet game, she'll do really well, but in a dry game, she can have those really, some low scores. She's had a 35 and a 44, but outside of that, she's been pretty consistent. Maloney's been actually really good the last couple of weeks, even though she had a 49 here, but she had 64, 91, 92, 80, etc. So you might be able to go for her, but at the 860k, you probably want something different. Ty, etc. Bodie, Hamilton, no, wouldn't go Hamilton. And then the outlier pick that I'd actually suggest, which is something I'm looking into this week, is actually going for Bonnie Toogood. I thought she looked pretty good against the Dogs for her 65, and I think it's a hunch you can take for the rest of the year. She's averaging 35 on the year, but obviously that 5 and that 35 itself are very, very restrictive in her average, which will hold down for the rest of the year. I think 3 games that she's got 105 points. Say she averages 100 for the rest of the year, that would be 300 points. Divide that by 6, she's still going at 67.5 if she averaged 100. But all you're really looking at of her is like an 80 or a 75. If she goes 75 times 3, that's 225 plus 105. Divide that by 6, and she'd average 55. So even then, she's getting on next year for that 55. But yeah, so I think this one is just a lot better, and then the 600k is available. I think she's almost better than Hamilton as well for 80k cheaper. So I think this is my sort of pod in the forward line for the rest of the year, is Bonnie Toogood returning to her best. She's got North Melbourne, which will be tougher, but I think she can definitely score well enough. If we go to DFS, I just want to see how has she gone last time against North Melbourne. Watch this just completely flatten my my thoughts on Toogood, but let's just see how Toogood went last time against North Melbourne. And against North Melbourne, here she goes. She averages 55 against them with a top of 66 in when she was playing for Western Bulldogs. So she hasn't played them for a while, but you can see here, if we clear opponent filter, when she was at full fitness last year, her lowest was an 81. So I think she can get back to it near enough the rest of the year. And if she puts up 80s for the rest of the year here, as you can see, I suspect she'll be pretty good out there. So that's who I sort of have as my pod forward option for trade targets for round 8 of the AFLW fantasy season. If you did enjoy that video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and I will see you guys for the team reveal video in a moment's time. Bye guys.